Hello and welcome to the post-match reaction to the Lions versus the Lions, where the Lions obviously won. Oh, dearie me, what a confusing one, and it was confusing for the commentators as it was for the viewers. Yes, it was Sigma Lions versus the British Irish Lions with their first game on South African soil. And to join me to go through the post-match reaction, first up, I've got Jacques from the Yellow Cap, or Cappy as he'll be known on the show. How are you doing, sir?
I'm very well, and you, Paul?
Yeah, very good, and great to have you back on the show. And a man who, as soon as I get him on screen, you'll know exactly who he supports and where the knowledge is coming from. We also have Jacques. How are you doing, sir?
Hello, Paul. Hello, Jacques.
Hey, Jacques.
Look at that. Not only the Reds cap and top there, but also the red curtain in the background as well, to make it all very, very clear as to who you're supporting. Look, I guess straight up from for people outside of South Africa, I'm looking when I kind of think of the Lions, I still think of the vintage that won Super Rugby, or was making Super Rugby finals. Sorry, didn't actually win Super Rugby a couple of years ago. But it's a very different side. I mean, there's a lot of players have headed overseas, haven't they, Jacques?
Yeah, so there's been a bit of a player drain over the last few years, and as you know, these things work in spikes. So sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. But I know people out there hate the word building a team, but I think we're getting there, building a team. It was a very, very young side, and I think also with what's happening in the world. Some of the unions are just in survival mode. So it's not about contracting. It's about paying salaries. It's about just getting through this. And there's still a lot of uncertainty about future competitions and what's really going to happen. Are we going to see travel? And in Joburg, the word on the ground is that the guys are not really ready to pull the trigger and spend big money on high profile players just to see them sort of play local rugby for the next 6 to 12 months, So at this stage, we're making work with what we have. Some of it's working, some of it's not. And the sifting process is at work. Not all these guys are gonna have long-term careers with the Lions. That's for sure.
Yeah. So it's okay. So it's not as strong a side as someone might have expected to have seen out there. On the park, I guess from my point of view, from a British and Irish Lions point of view, the thing that got me was, I guess, how well the structures are, how well the side was communicating with each other, how well it's connected, Jacques, this is for what is essentially a kind of barbarian style side that's being put together from lots of different places. They're looking very slick early on, aren't they?
Definitely. I think...
I was trying to get Cappy there. No, go on, Jack.
Yeah.
You go first.
No problem. Go for it, Cappy.
Yeah, Paul, I must agree. They are looking very slick. There may be a little mistake here and there, but nothing to be too concerned about yet. I think they are really... It's 2 games that we've seen them play now. But also, one has to be fair in your judgment when you look at the teams they played against. I mean, a week ago, they played against an international outfit, Japan, which wasn't really that bad, although they probably did the business in the first half and then took the pedal, off the foot off the pedal, I would say. But Japan did try and come back. The Lions, the South African Lions, on the other hand, I think they did their best. There was probably two tries that was left out there that could have been scored. But it's not a Japan an international outfit. It's a very, very young outfit, in fact. Not a lot of big names. Jacques will be able to say exactly. I think there was only like one Bok in that whole team at the that played today. Cap wise, I think not many caps either. So it's a very, very inexperienced team. But I think they actually stood their ground until very late in the match, where things unfortunately raveled out, and it's one of those things. I suppose it was bound to happen, but I think in the bigger scheme of things, the South African Lions, can feel very proud about themselves for the performance they put up today, which wasn't too bad, although the scoreline probably doesn't reflect that nicely in regards to what happened at the end of the day.
Okay, look, you've already stumbled over our naming issue. Got problem we've got with this game, which is Lions versus Lions. Should we have had? Obviously you couldn't have gone back and called it and called the team Transvaal, but could we have called perhaps call this team the Sigma Guantang rather than the Lions? It would have made life a lot easier, I think, for both sides. Perhaps some of us not with the pronunciation, but it would have been easier to understand who was playing in this one. And I guess we got an early taster as to what we were going to see with Reece Zammit collecting the kick behind, and basically the British Irish Lions getting over the gain line a lot. I did think early on that the referee had left his whistle back in the changing rooms for both sides. The players who were just getting back off the floor without releasing the ball, players perhaps going through and being a bit offside. He was happy to let things flow, wasn't he?
Yeah, I thought the breakdowns was a bit of a free for all and a bit of a mess, especially. But overall, I don't share the sentiments of Cappy over there. I don't feel quite, satisfied with that scoreline. I think the Lions, the British Lions now, will definitely feel very confident about what they did tonight. And I'm just drawing comparisons to the 2017 tour, where I think the Blues and the Highlanders managed to beat the British Lions. The Hurricanes managed to draw. I expect better from our provincial sides, and this is not good enough. What really surprised me, Paul, was the way the British Lions now pulled away in the last 20 minutes, especially if you're taking its altitude. They nearly doubled their score in the last 20 minutes, and there was real intent to speed up the game. They even took one or two quick lineouts and those kind of things. And it's a fit side. It's really, and I think they were out to test the altitude and to really push the limits and see. You could see there were one or two guys who, obviously Josh Adams, with all the running he did, he was really drawing on air at one point. I saw him. But it was very surprising to me. I honestly thought that the Sigma Lions would put up a good last 30 minutes. That's usually the pattern in Johannesburg. And tonight it was just one-way traffic. British and Irish Lions pulled away that last 20. It caught me a bit off guard, to be honest.
Well, I think we kind of saw. We've got those two tries by the British Irish Lions early on, but then we saw that where the Lions really made profit was when they kept it tight amongst their forwards. And I think what wasn't going to happen, and because they're playing that style, or that's where they were getting the gain, and the profit, you're not going to run other sides off their feet by doing that. By keeping actually forwards, by just keep driving it, picking, going. You have to stretch them a bit if you want to try and run them off their feet, and because the Lions really couldn't spread the ball, or the Sigma Lions really couldn't spread the ball and keep it, and they had to basically play 10-man rugby. It was, I think they weren't in a position to tire out the British and Irish Lions from that point of view. Also, I think probably the try just after half time, where we came out and Josh Adams went over off the set move from the line out. Suddenly, the Lions have gone in at 7:21. They've avoided that late try just before half time. You think, okay, boys, look, let's go out there, make a good start, and then to get a sucker punch or punch in the guts as Adams goes over, probably took a bit of the morale out of the Lions, out of what you say, which is a young Lions side. There, for me, one of their best players was their captain, the number 8, who made that break for that, who was involved in both the first tries. And he looks to be trying to carry this team to a certain degree. Frankie Horn. Cappy, a player you've been impressed with?
Yeah, it's a guy who's been coming through the ranks now. SA Jacques, if I'm not mistaken, junior Bok captain. So he's been earmarked as a future star, of the game, and I mean the fact that he's at such a young age already, captaining the Lions with so many senior players around him says a lot. And I mean, you could see he was playing his heart out tonight, and that break that he made there was really, really. I mean, that was a classic break, and the way that he carried the ball, and then supported by Burger Orendahl. I mean, that was really proper. That's a guy that's really obviously giving his all, and I think you could see up to that stage, the guys were obviously in it to do whatever they could do, whether it was to win or whatever. But as Jacques mentioned it just now, that last 20 minutes was just like. I mean, I also expected. I saw everybody on Twitter going on and saying, "Oh, this is going to be a long evening for the Sigma Lions," and so. And in the back of my head, I just had that same feeling that Jacques had. The last 30 or 20 minutes will come back, and from an altitude point of view, and that will help the Sigma Lions probably to at least either bring it back or do whatever the scoreline might be at that stage. And it was completely the opposite. Which is a bit concerning if you think that the next two games that the Lions are playing against the Sharks and the Bulls are also basically at the Sharks are playing at the same venue, and then the Bulls are playing at Loftus, which is literally just down the road from Ellis Park. So it's going to be interesting to see if there's going to be an improvement between the Sharks and the Bulls, from what we saw tonight. At this stage, from what I'm seeing on social media, not many South Africans are too confident about that. And I think everybody's just putting their hopes into the box at this stage, and none of the local provincial teams, if we can call it that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Jacques made the point there about how the Blues and the Highlanders went against the British Irish Lions last time out. I think what we saw last time out was that the British Irish Lions didn't meet up until pretty much the week of the first game, and they flew out altogether and arrived, and then played a game in like 48 hours of landing against the provincial Barbarians, and they really struggled. And we didn't really see them clicking until probably the Maori All Blacks game, in all honesty, in that on that tour. This time around, as soon as players have been off club duty, they've been down in Jersey training. So there's been there's been a pre-tour camp this side that we didn't really have last time, and I think we're seeing the fruits of that in the way that the British Irish Lions have hit the ground running much earlier, which has made it a lot more difficult for the Lions, who are coming off the back of, as you say, they come off the back of the Rainbow Cup, but during that time they had any Springboks, but all those Springboks are now being pulled out the side. Thinking of Elson Yankees, for example, they're fly half, so you've got very much junior players in there. So they've not had this. In some ways, they've had less preparation time than the British Irish Lions as a squad, which is to give them some, which I know that probably doesn't help or soften the blow anything, Jacques. But I do think it's you're seeing a different British and Irish Lions, very different style British and Irish Lions tour this year, irrespective of COVID, really, from my point of view.
Yeah, I think it's a very fair point that you're making, Paul, and I think also in terms of the Sigma Lions selection, obviously there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes, but 2 weeks ago they were still a bit COVID struck. A lot of guys were out, and then a lot of the guys who played tonight performed very well against the Stormers / Western Province in a local Currie Cup match. And I think it sort of confused the coaching staff in terms of selections as well. because it's difficult to drop a player or to leave out a player, if he performed in his last game. So it was quite a big win by the Lions against Western Province, and the guys sort of earned their chance to play tonight. And look, that side is really filled with the Lions, Sigma Lions side, really filled with a lot of young. If you really go player by player and you do some research, you'll see it's young guys, but it's also guys who've done well in the junior tournaments, the Junior Curry Cup, if you want to call it that, to keep it simple, over the last 3-4 years. So these are really guys who they're still developing. If we I know one of the guys that just came back from injury, for example, is a Jacques, who's a very experienced player, and it was sort of a bit of a tough one. Do you start him from a long-term injury? Do you start him against the British Lions, or do you just wait another week or two and sort of bring him back, against weaker provincial sides? I think it would be a tough ask for anybody to start his first game coming back from a long-term injury against the British Lions. But, all credit to the British Lions. I think they really look well coached. The lineouts were... it was smooth. Everything went well there. The contesting the lineouts. I thought the pair of Ollie Price and Finn Russell were exceptional, and they're going to push hard for test berths if they keep on putting up those kind of performances. I really thought, but it's difficult to say. Russell, to be honest, he had a lot of freedom tonight. It's not like it was a test match. It was no pressure, really. So it's a bit different than test rugby, obviously. But, good performances all over.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell, isn't it? You say the pressure was off after the first 7 minutes. Once if you score 2 tries in the first 10 minutes, the pressure off your shoulders, and it all becomes a lot easier to play. You're quite right. For those people that aren't aware, just those 2 results that you kind of mentioned was the COVID one was against the Pumas away, where the Lions lost 39-10 to the Pumas, which was a massive upset when you consider that the Pumas only didn't beat any of the Super Rugby sides in the previous Curry Cup / Super Rugby Unlocked, whatever it's called. And that was then followed up by that 38-32 win over Western Province. So just to bring those people up to speed who aren't following the Curry Cup. So out of that, so you mentioned that Scottish combination there in the halfbacks played well, and the lineup worked well. Now, and again, if we look at the side that was put out there, you've got 5 players in that pack are all from England. So Jamie George, who's throwing in, Mario Toji, Johnny Hill, and Courtney Laws, who are jumping. And then Carl Sinclair, who's lifting. That's if you're going to pick a combination like that, the line-out should work. And these guys have sure, it's under Eddie Jones, sure, it's under different line-out calls, but those guys, he's picked a combination there. With Ali Price and Finn Russell, again, it's a Scottish combination at 9 and 10. They should, if those passes aren't sticking, there's serious question marks. I think the thing that kind of impressed me was when you went actually outside of that thing. You've then got Finn Russell to Owen Farrell, who's English, back to Chris Harris, who's Scottish. Your 2 wingers are both Welsh, and you've got Stuart Hogg at the back, who's Scottish. So a mixed back line, but the communication about where space was, so that Finn Russell or Owen Farrell knew where to get the ball to, I think was important. A lot of people would say, "Oh yeah, the vision of Finn Russell, he can only have that vision if the message is coming from his other backline players to tell him where he can put the ball." And to me, that was the biggest thing that impressed me. And the fact that they kept that going when you've got English, Irish, and Welsh players coming into that backline, again, mixing up the different nationalities, players who haven't played together much, if at all together, and that communication being there. To me, that was the biggest thing that impressed me. I'm not sure if I'm asking a question there or it's making a statement, but Cappy, any players there that particularly stood out for you that you thought would be put the hand up for Test selection?
Look, I mean, something that impressed me very early on was obviously you touched on it sort of now, was the lineouts. I just thought that the British and Irish Lions, especially with Itoje, they were just towering over the line, the Sigma Lions, especially in the beginning. I think it became a little bit better later on, once the South Africans started to kind of figure out what was going on. But I just felt that Maro Itoje, obviously he's a world beater, so he must be in the mix to make the starting lineup. Off the cuff, that's the first name that stands out. Josh Adams with 4 tries. Most of those tries were a bit too easy, but he must surely, be on the inside, on the inside edge at this stage to be looked at as a possible Test starter. He's always been, a great finisher. So, but like I say, most of the tries were a bit too easy, where he didn't work too hard. I mean, I think it was the second last try that he scored, second last it was either second last or the third last try that he scored, the one where he actually tackled Rabs Mokswane or Jumbo Lengo, sorry. And then the ball came back, and somehow the British and Irish Lions got the ball back, and he finished off nicely. I thought that was a very well worked try. But yeah, those two are the first 2 names that pop up in my head. Something that was it's just my opinion. Most of the beginning of the match and a part of the second half, I kind of felt that Owen Farrell looked very lethargic. Didn't look too interested actually in playing. I don't know. That was just kind of the body language that I got from him. It just didn't look like the Owen Farrell that you would normally see in an England team. It was almost kind of like, what am I doing here today? Don't really want to be here. But, when it came to his kicking and stuff, that's just my opinion, like I say. But maybe it's just the whole thing of obviously gelling with different nations, guys that's not familiar to you in the sense of playing with them. Obviously, they know each other, playing against each other. But it's like you mentioned, that backline is quite mixed up. So it's just finding each other and stuff. And I remember there was an incident in the first half where he didn't look too impressed with what's his name, the scrum half, when they got a ball, and there was a bit of a mix-up there, and he didn't look too impressed after that. But yeah, I think it's normal. These guys will find each other in the next 2 or 3 games, and then it will be plain sailing from there on forward.
Yeah, that's when Ali Price took it to the line and at the very last minute gives Farrell the ball to get.
Yeah, they were like on top of each other, literally. Yeah, so he didn't look too impressed with that.
No, very true. I think to me, actually, one of the good things was that Owen Farrell. Look, one of the things they talk about him is he's a very competitive player, and that can quite often overspill into aggro and him getting involved with opposition players. And I was glad to see that there was none of that in this game. He just got on with playing, and because he is a very good rugby player. But when he gets himself involved and arguing and in the kind of the afters, you're like, no, leave that to your forwards, and you just concentrate on playing. Jacques, what did you think of Owen Farrell? Do you think again he was lethargic, or do you think he was pulling the strings well?
I'll have to give it a rewatch to actually comment on the being lethargic. But I actually thought he combined well with Harris. Like you said, not being used to playing together, they actually did pretty well. I thought that the backline of the British and Irish Lions were much better than the forwards, to be honest. The best forward for me was Hamish Watson. He had a great game, in my opinion, and it's not like the forwards did anything wrong. When it came to the set pieces, they were solid, but it was just that a little bit of over eagerness, maybe, or I don't know what it was, but I just thought that the back line sort of were a step ahead of the forwards today. It was just like the British and Irish Lions forwards could not get that. That dominance, you know what I'm saying, over the Sigma Lions. They defended well in close quarters, and credit for that. There was a big period about 10, 15 minutes before halftime where they kept out the Sigma Lions, and the defense was great. Sigma Lions, predictable there. But I thought Owen Farrell combined well, and I thought that the back line did well. With Owen Farrell and Stuart Hogg in that back line, you've already got two exceptional leaders in the British and Irish Lions team. And we know they're going to be involved in the Test Match 23 in some way or another. I still think that Stuart Hogg is one of the best fullbacks in the world, and I think he's going to have a big tour. I think he also he was just steady and solid from the back, and with Conor Murray being at 9, suddenly you're looking at leaders, from their they're leading their countries on a regular basis, these guys. So it's a strong leadership. If you look back to when the All Blacks also performed at their best, you had Sam Whitelock captaining the Crusaders, and if you go all over the Blues, Jerome Kano, and the Highlanders, Aaron Smith. And so when those guys get to the Chiefs, Sam Cane, when they get together in the circle and the pressure is on, you've got 5, 6, 4 guys that you can rely on, that you can look up to, and you can say, what do we do? And they've got answers for you, and I think that's something that I think they sort of quite far ahead of the Springboks in that regard with leadership. And I'm just talking about how many leaders they have and the experience of their leaders. And it's gonna be tough to crack their will and to sort of break them. These guys have seen everything. If you played for Ireland and Scotland and those countries for such a long time, you've been there, you've been 20 points down, you've seen it all, and you can stay calm and obviously have that effect on the team as well. So Owen Farrell is very important to their cause, I still believe.
Now, all the names you mentioned there from a British Irish Lions point of view were all backs, which is interesting. So the loss of Alwyn Jones to injury and the leadership he brings in that forward pack is going to be, I think, is the main thing they're going to miss from him, because when you're looking at the way the British Irish Lions are set up, is that they're going to be playing a lock at 6 to combat Peter Steph-Toy, essentially. We had, I've gone blank, Tyburn there against Japan. We've got Courtney Laws there tonight as well. So those two, so we're definitely going to have, so that 6 isn't going to be a leader in that kind of sense. The Talupi Faletau, who will probably start at 8, again, not a man of many words, a very good player, don't get me wrong, but not kind of your vocal leader. And so you're looking around there. Yes, you got Toji, but you're starting to look around going, okay, that type 5 needs an extra leader or 2 in it, really, because whilst, as you say, this pack got themselves over the gain line, defended well, even though they did allow a lot of good continuity from that Lions pack during that first half, is when they come up against the Springboks, that's where we're going to see a massive step up. Is that the Springboks pack compared to this Sigma Lions pack is going to be on a totally different level.
Yes.
And so you're quite right. Yeah, that is going to be the area of, not concern, I guess, but the area of interest is how they can stand up to that. I agree with you as well. I think Stuart Hogg had a really good game at fullback. Positionally, had things under control. Is learning. Was one of the things the commentators mentioned was how deep he was standing in this one, and perhaps one of the things he is learning is how deep do I have to go at altitude, because I think we all talk about booming kicks and how far it can go. So perhaps it's a matter of, has that played in his mind a little bit too much? And we'll see whether. So that's going to be interesting to see. Josh Adams, I had him down as being a squad player and not somebody who was going to be somebody who's going to be factored as far as a test player goes. But boy, oh boy, he has put his hand up. You can say he walked those tries in, but you can only play the team that's in front of you. You can only play the game you've got, and he hasn't made a mistake so far.
Yeah, he's one of the best. I kept a good eye on him, and he's such a good chaser of the kick as well. And it's a lot of hard work he put in there. Putting Evie Viljoen under pressure a lot of times, the fullback of the Sigma Lions. So he's definitely one that I also initially thought, over the last few years, I also thought not really that much of him. But, with the World Cup, he just kept on scoring. And tonight he's just, with the British and Irish Lions, he's just continuing on that tangent. So definitely put his name up there for selection. And he's a try scoring machine.
Yeah, I just had a quick look at the stats. I thought, I remember him making a tackle, thinking, defensively he's doing a good job tonight as well. And now I read the stats. He made one tackle all game.
Okay.
He didn't miss any.
That was the tackle that I was referring to actually, and which then ultimately turned over into him scoring a try. So must be that one.
But it's So he wasn't challenged tonight because the Lions didn't get out wide very often. So I guess that's the only point we need to sort of caveat that with. And again, the same applies to Lewis Reed-Zammit as well. He very rarely had much work to do on the wing defensively, but attacking he did well. Well, look, guys, we've been half an hour chatting already. It's been an absolute pleasure. Any final points you'd like to make about the game or about the tour before we sign off, Gabby?
Well, I'm looking forward to obviously what's coming next. So, the Sharks on Wednesday evening, and then obviously the Bulls on next week Saturday. So it will be nice to see how much this Lions team will change. We spoke about it the other night. Obviously, Gatlin mentioned that he wants to give all 46 or whatever team members he's got in that squad a run before the Test series actually starts. So it will be interesting to see who stays on and who gets rested. I think these kind of things will also start pointing, in a way that you might get an idea, who is ultimately looking at, for test selection and stuff like that. But look, I know Jacques is a bit disappointed as to what happened tonight. It's it wasn't a matter of losing, but about more than losing by how much. And at one stage, I really was sitting here and thinking, yes, if the Lions can keep it below 50, that would be awesome. Because I know we spoke about it the other night on our show, and the last time they played, it was like 72. I can't remember, 72-10 or somewhere around there, which apparently Jacques told us is the highest score that was ever scored against, what's known as the Sigma Lions now. So that's why I felt, kudos to them. They did try and put up a fight, but that last 20 minutes, like Jacques mentioned, that was a bit of a killer blow, which was a bit unexpected. As Jacques and I both mentioned, we thought altitude would come into play. But let's wait and see what happens. The next game is at Emirates Airline Park again, and then they head over to Loftus, and let's see what happens. Like they say, 7 days in rugby is a long time.
Well, yes, and as you say, it's going to be interesting to see how many changes there are before that Sharks game, because only one player has started both games so far. So I think we can be fairly sure that Josh Adams will be given a rest next one. Any sort of final thoughts, Jacques, around this?
Yeah, look, I hope we're going to see some sort of an improvement. Look, I know it's about the British Lions. These provincial games are actually about them, and where they are, and sort of sussing them out and seeing what we can learn before the actual test starts. So it's less about probably what the Bulls and the Sharks and the Sigma Lions achieve probably, but it would be great to get one over and just sort of dent their confidence a little bit. I'll be honest with you, I'm slightly worried, and where I'm sitting now, and that's why these interviews right after the game is probably not the best thing. But I'm sort of contemplating whether these, I come from a time where I think 1997, I looked at the team the other day when the British and Irish Lions toured here. We had 7 World Cup winning Springboks from the 1995 World Cup in the Transvaal or the Lions side when we faced the British and Irish Lions that year. And it's just sort of, no disrespect to the guys who put out everything today, but it's just sort of a bit sad to see that these games are sort of a bit watered down, if I can say it, or really rethinking the meaning of these games. So the thing is as well, Paul, what's also important to understand is that we picked a British and Irish Lions squad, but we also we pulled the players who are going to represent the South African A side as well. So there's a good foot. It didn't really affect the Sigma Lions. I'm not using that as an excuse. All I'm saying is there's 50 odd first class of our frontline players sitting in camp at the moment, and they all pulled from duty, which me and Cappy has discussed at length. Let a French player like a Marco van Staden, let him run out for the Bulls against the British and Irish Lions. Don't just keep a guy in camp for 6-7 weeks if he's only going to play the SA A game. So, but anyway, that's my thoughts, and I really enjoyed talking to you guys there, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the tour. And it's going to be a big one. Let me tell you, the test matches are going to be pretty huge.
Yeah, they are. And I guess a couple of comments that I'd like to. Actually, you've triggered, and maybe we'll discuss a bit longer. But the tour to New Zealand, or if we go back 2 tours, the tour to Australia, where again the Wallabies pulled out their players out of the provincial games. They ended up being a bit of a joke, and the British and Irish Lions, when they came to New Zealand, as part of the contract, said, "Look, guys, you have to release your All Blacks for the provincial games because otherwise they're meaningless. They becomes pointless." And that's why we saw much better competitions in that tour. For this one, I get it that the fact that South Africa haven't played for over a year, and they've got the 2 warm-up games against Georgia, so I understand the pulling the players for that. But you're quite right. I think anyone who's not involved in the matchday squads for the Georgia games should be released for a COVID bubble, depending, and all that kind of stuff. Should be made available for these provincial games.
Yes. Absolutely, 100%.
When Jack's talking about the changes we're looking at, so I guess I quickly look forward to this. I mean, if we think of the South Africa A game as being the sort of the first mini test where we'll see we'll get a preview of to what the British and Irish Lions test side looks like, bar 1 or 2 players. That means that the Sharks game is the last time your test starters will be starting a game, because the Bulls game, being a midweek game ahead of South Africa A, the timing is just wrong for putting out. If you're not going to start both those games, the Bulls and South Africa A, so that might play into the Bulls' hands, being the strongest so far this season of the South African provinces. So if you're looking for your density of confidence, then it's the Bulls. Is what I've been looking at for a provincial win personally. I don't know your thoughts on that. Do you think the Bulls are the side that's got the best chance?
I was thinking about. Sorry, Jacques. I was thinking about that while this game was on tonight, and I just, it's a dangerous thought to have, and just to go out thinking, oh well, because I think one of the commentators here in South Africa mentioned that the Lions, or I saw it on Twitter actually, that the Lions was bottom of the table in the Rainbow Cup of the South African Conference. And I thought to myself, it's a bit of a dangerous statement to make and just automatically think that the Bulls will then be the best side, of the 4 provincial games that's going to be played. Because I think we saw, and this is where, that Rainbow Cup final suddenly comes to mind. It's what we saw happened in Italy. It's bound to be, I don't want to say bound to be the same thing, but from being a Bulls supporter, I would like to hope that whatever that guy said on Twitter will be right, and the Bulls will offer a little bit more than the Lions did. But, I didn't think, honestly, up to before that last 20 minutes, I thought the Sigma Lions really came to the party. They were there to play. They didn't just arrive, they were there to play, and they did offer something. And I think it was more, like I said earlier, it was more a case of hope than actual really thinking that they will beat the British and Irish Lions. But unfortunately, that last 20 minutes is what mattered most. And if they're doing that at altitude, then I hope the Bulls. I know that I saw pictures. The Bulls were actually training today, so which probably is not a regular thing for rugby teams. And if that is the case, then I hope tomorrow is also a training day.
Oh, dear. So yes, the Bulls, and then also the Stormers obviously also play 3 days after that South Africa game. So Bulls or Stormers, I think we're looking for that provincial win in my mind. Thank you very much, Jacques. Please let people know what your show is, and so they can catch that one as well. But be warned, it's not in English.
I was about to say, Paul, I'm more than happy to share our show. But I mean, I'm sure there are some people living in New Zealand and wherever around the world watching your show. And if they do speak or understand Afrikaans, please join us. Our show is called Die Losgemaal. Basically, loosely translated in English would be the loose mall or something like that, Jacques.
Just the mall. Just the mall.
The mall. Yeah, well, the mall. And not the shopping mall, by the way. And if there's any people that understands Afrikaans or speaks Afrikaans and they're not living in South Africa, that's the reason why we started the show in a native language of Afrikaans. It's just to give people, something different than the regular, because all the shows that you can watch on rugby are 99% English. So, I think we're probably one of the only Afrikaans shows out there at the moment. So, it's called Die Losgemaal.
Yeah, and don't ask me how that's spelled, folks. Head over to @YellowCap Sports on Twitter if you want to get that link, and Jacques will set you up. Thank you very much, boys. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks. And enjoy the rest of the tour.
Thanks so much, Paul.